All right, it's the end of the session. I am here. This is Olive. This is Lightning. This is Kole and Doodles. This is Doodles, but his full name is Bernolui. All right, and this is their roadmap to success. Primarily, we worked with all the dogs, but a lot of the issues we called in were with Olive. I'm going to work backwards because we covered some stuff off camera. So a lot of it is the version of what we did above, which is a counter conditioning desensitizing exercise. So we went over what I call the elevator game. So Olive doesn't like being picked up, so I go like this, she backs away. That's a cutoff signal. So what I had her guardian do is just like this, nice, and treat. And eventually, nice, and treat. I wouldn't be holding the treats, I'd have them somewhere else, but nice. Now she's still backing away. You shouldn't continue. Like I showed you when you're doing this, if you reach and she backs up, then just pull back, reach a little bit less. Always make it a little bit less. We want to push, but we don't want to push so far the dog is moving away or uncomfortable. And eventually the next step is you're going to be touching and then marker, nice, then treat. Then the next stage is you're going to have your fingers underneath and put a little pressure without lifting the legs off the ground, then nice, and then treat. Yes, Lightning, I see you want treats. And eventually you're putting your hand underneath and you're lifting up just a little bit, nice, and treat. And make sure you're holding, and the guardians were astute enough to recognize that Olive likes being picked up in a specific way. So if she likes being picked up more like this, you know, simulate, so you're gonna just, oh, you just realized that I have some treats, huh? Sit. Nice, that's a very slow sit. And you did a good job, buddy. I know it's harder for you to sit. I have to keep the rest of this so you guys will pay attention to me and it'll make a good video shot. So we're gonna wait for the rest of it. So eventually you're lifting Olive's just a ½ inch off the ground, putting her back down, marker word and treat, and eventually you're lifting her higher and higher. And this becomes an elevate, come up with escalator or whatever the word is that means you're about to do this. Okay, so do the same principle for the door. So for all the dogs separately, tell Doodles to sit. Again, try to find it on the carpet. And then reach for the door a little bit. Pull your hand back, mark a word, and give your dog the treat. Gradually you can touch the handle, then you're jiggling the handle, then you're jiggling the lock, then you're opening it ½ inch and closing it, come back and give your dog the treat. So make it, just keep on doing this step by step. And this is something I want you guys to think of, not just for this, but for any activity. How can I break it down into small individual steps? You are very determined. And in smaller enough steps so the dog can digest that step, and then we can provide a treat or reinforcement after each step. And that way the dog, we can, whatever the bugaboo is, whether it's getting my nails trimmed or people reaching for me to pick me up or going out the door, I have to sit calmly. And then eventually get to the point where you open the door the full way and the dog's just sitting there. Then you show you a treat and say, release, or whatever that dog's word is, and let him out the door. Now, because I believe is it Kole going after at the door. So when he decides to be like the hall monitor and he's kind of the tattletale, when she does stuff that he doesn't like or is disturbing the peace, hey buddy, then Kole likes to jump in and correct. And so what I like to do instead is make sure that the dogs have been conditioned to sit quietly as the door is open. And while the door is wide open, I wait for my word to go out, and I would have each dog have its own release word. So that way you can have them all. And I say, when I'm feeding my dogs, I say butts, butts, butts. I have 3 dogs, and they put their butts down on the floor. And then I put the food in and I release them to eat one at a time, kind of a similar principle. So come up with a word that means to sit down there. That would be all of their word. And then come up with a release word for each dog that means that you can release them to go outside individually. So maybe his is, I don't know, release, break, freedom, parole, or whatever you want to do, or come up with a theme or something, or some sort of inside joke. Okay, so that's kind of the auxiliary stuff we did after the video above. And for the video above, hey buddy, and all the rest of the stuff, make sure that you're going at your dog's pace. It's not a race to finish it, and in our society, that's what we try to do in our culture. Well, the goal is that we have the dog feel comfortable through the action, and they're no longer reacting and demonstrating the negative behaviors or the undesirable behaviors. Your nails are a little bit long, buddy. Make sure you trim those because they get too long and sometimes they have to be amputated, and it doesn't grow back for dogs. It's about a $500 surgery in the Midwest. I bet you it's more expensive out here. All right, so we started off by going over marker words. A marker word is nice, so we did a loading exercise. Nice, treat. Nice, treat. So remember, they don't have to sit, lay down, do anything, and they don't know what's coming at first. So nice, and then put that treat in Olive's mouth. Walk around your house doing this. By the time you see this video, you guys should be done with this, so please remember this part and do it on your own. And unless one of the dogs is not working, then keep on doing that. Walk around the house, about 1 treat per room, or a piece of kibble if they really like their kibble works as well. And then nice. And then we can use it for celebrating. So I didn't ask him to lay down, but when he did, that's a desirable action. It's something I do like it sometimes, so I let him know that that's what I wanted. So that's the marker word. Now, If you forget how marker words work, let me know. I have videos on all the stuff I'm going to talk about here. I'm just going to talk about the high level because otherwise it's going to be a 3-hour video. So use the marker words when the instant they do the thing you want, unless the thing that you want them to do has duration like drinking water or going potty. Then we'd say yes. And he was trained as a service dog, so that's why he's nudging at me. He thinks that he's supposed to have a treat in my hand. That keeps you in the shot. Okay, so we use the marker words for everything. Anything desirable that they do, whether you ask for it or not. And we'll talk about the distinction between those in a second. We also talked about cues. Like a lot of guardians, these dogs have multiple words for the same action. Come here, come here, over here, here boy, here girl, so on. So instead, come up with one word, and it's vocabulary. We say vocabulary. So I say, come here, vocabulary, come. And I can tell my partner, thank you for reminding me that. It's going to take us as humans about 3 months to get in the habit of doing this. So make a list of the cues. Nice. And every time that they do something that you want, say that marker word. Nice. You're not getting what you want, but you are getting some attention, buddy. That's better than nothing. All right. So we also want to we also went over hand targeting. So hand targeting, touch, nice, and then I put the treat there. Now I have to pretend like I have a treat to keep you guys here. And so that's okay. And so remember, that is a nice way to engage really permission and consent. So if you ask the dog to come and touch your hand and it doesn't want to, it's saying I'm uncomfortable or maybe I don't know that exercise. So again, I have a video for this one. Remember, the progression is turn the head, then lean, then step, then steps. Remember, you chopping with an empty hand, and when they touch your hand, that's when you say a marker word. Then you put the treat on that hand, and the hand doesn't move away. I want this to start and stop at the same place. You can use this as an alternative recall. You can use this to position him like I have the force. Well, I lost the force evidently. But, so if you want to reposition for pictures, to put on a harness, we want to avoid, I'd say manhandling them, but human handling the dog. And so we're not forcing them to sit in this direction or that direction. Now, because there is a little bit of protectiveness at times, I would have a unique recall word for each dog, kind of like what we talked about for the door. And this is unusual. I don't usually like to give dogs unique command cues. I want them all the same. But in this case, I think having those, if there's a special word, and we want to have a cookie in the corner. So use that when cookie in the corner. So I have each dog, so maybe his word is return. So I go, throw the treat, he goes and gets it, and I say, and when he turns around and comes to me, I say return, and say nice and give him that treat. So that way I can say return for him, avoid for her, something for him, and so each dog has its unique word. So if I'm here with Lightning and Lightning's getting petting, and then he approaches and Lightning bares teeth, and somebody over on the other side of the room gives Kole's cue to recall, it's only for him. Lightning stays here, Kole walks away, Kole's baring the teeth appears to work because when I see it as a human, if he doesn't listen to it, we cue it and help him understand that. And after a while, you can chain those things. So the dog might actually see that, oh, baring teeth, should run to the next human and get a treat. If it does, make sure you mark and reward that because that's kind of what we're looking for. Also for Doodles barking, again, every time he's about to pick up that yellow egg or whatever it is, snag is the word that I use, but whatever the word is, encourage him. And after a while, you'll see he's going to go grab that. Nice. And when he does that, make sure you say your marker word and pet him. Don't give him a treat because then he has to drop it out of his mouth. But this is a great way to stop dogs from barking. Is give them a replacement behavior of grabbing something in their mouth. It helps them chew. Yes, Doodles, you got to be careful. Our camera work is going to get sloppy if you do that. Let me see, what else? So hand targeting also is a great thing for you to do because you can do it as a group and you can have like one person here, one person there. The dog's going back and forth to give the hand targeting. When you have guests come over, you can have the guest do the hand targeting, and we can build into it touch stick targeting if you want. If you want to build on it, let me know. I'm happy to share that lesson with you. I'd also like you to teach your dogs to catch, especially the fearful dogs, because that's a great way for Olive to play and interact with guests. Now, the way I do it is that if, let's say that he's facing me, I'd have one treat, and I throw it on the first toss. I try to throw it such a perfect throw, all he has to do is open his mouth, and it goes in his mouth. If he catches it, I say nice, and then he's chewing the treat. If he doesn't catch it, I have somebody else sitting there. They grab the treat and give nice, and give it back to me. And then I throw it again. Otherwise, if it hits the dog's nose and they lick it off the ground, they have no motivation. But eventually the dog's snatching it out of the air. Then you can start throwing it a little bit this way, a little bit that way, make it a little bit more challenging. But now when you have a guest come over, somebody that Olive's not comfortable with, that guest can toss treats. Now, until then, if you have a guest come over, give the guest a handful of treats. And I would try to put the dogs in here so that she's not competing, doesn't get stepped on. Have them sit on the couch and have them throw the treat and do the orientation game that I showed in the video above. So every time she looks back at them, nice, and they throws a treat. But again, there's sometimes, and if she's stiff or barking or staring, he should throw the treats behind her. Help her move herself away. And eventually she started coming closer. If she comes to the guest with it on its own, I would have the guest hold out a treat and mark and give it to her, but not try to pet her. We also talked about consent. Lightning. So I hold my hand out and Lightning engaged with me. So ask your guest, everybody to hold their hand out in front of the dog. If the dog comes in and nudges you, it's saying yes. Nice. And if it doesn't, it turns its head away, the guest should not interact. And that will help the dogs feel more confident. Especially in her case, because I think that she's not a big fan of people touching her that she doesn't know, but she's pretty comfortable with me, and the guardians have commented multiple times on how unusual her interactions is. But I am being respectful of what she's asking me to do, and I'm rewarding her when she does the things that I want in a way that she's okay with. All right, we also went over petting with a purpose, or manners, and celebrating, which is what I'm doing right now. Nice. So basically, celebrating is he comes up and he nudges me, sit. Nice. And then I pet him under his chin. Remember, pet under his chin, on their shoulders. So if he comes up and nudges me or paws at me or, sit, then I'm going to back up and knock my head into something. But I'm going to go back to what I was doing. So I'm only going to ask him to do something once. If he does what I want, I'm going to mark and reward him. And if he doesn't, there's no punishment. There's no correction. I just go on to the other things I'm doing. He's still missing out on something. And I didn't create any frustration for it. After a while, he'll start coming and sitting in front of you to prepay for the attention. When he does, make sure you say your mark, word, and pet there. Now, dogs also like being petted on their butt, behind the ears. Find all the places your dog really likes to do. And when you're doing that arc, so hold your hand like you have a treat in it, and you do it kind of a croissant shape. Lightning. You're going to easier. So like this to get him to sit. So I go here, and I'm kind of trying to go over the head. It's hard for me to do when I'm sitting because you're pretty tall. But you're going like this over the dog's head, and usually they do just what she did. Then you lower my hand, let him lick off the treat, and I tickle under the chin. So eventually I can use that even when I don't have a treat. Let me see. Okay, so for petting with a purpose, we're going to tell the dog to sit one time. He's actually sitting on his butt on something that's funny. And then if he doesn't, then I'm on to other things. When he sits down to prepay, make sure that you're rewarding and petting that dog. If they do it multiple times in a row, it's probably saying, I need a little bit of a walk, I need a chew stick, I need some exercise or something along those lines. And then use the watchword of manners. So somebody comes in and sees I'm petting Kole, and they say manners. Oh, you're right. I forgot to ask him. Sit. I know it's harder for you to sit. Yes, and you're all good-looking girls and boy. So I asked him to sit, and if he sits, then I'm going to pet him. If he doesn't, then I'm going to go back to what I was doing. Now, I mix that up. So if I'm petting him, somebody comes in and says, David, I think you might have forgotten to celebrate. So manners is essentially, or manners means I think you forgot to ask the dog to sit. So I'd stop petting, tell the dog to sit if he sits or she sits. Nice. Then I say the marker word and pet them, and if they don't, then I go back to it. So you try it a couple times. There you go. And so try to avoid, there's something called learned relevance for dogs. If you use the same word over and over again, you will condition them. It's okay to not listen to me. It's okay to ignore that word. And then you get frustrated, the dog gets frustrated. So it's just a good habit to get in. Think of it as teaching your dog manners. Sitting or laying down could be a dog's way of saying, please pet me. Well, that's very polite. All right, we also, what I've been doing here, and I'll do it here with Kole when he does it, with either one of them, is I'm just going to celebrate anything that they do that I like when I don't ask for it. So, nice. I didn't ask for that. Nice. I didn't ask for that either. But sitting and laying down are two things I like the dog's doing. So if you wash your dad's car when you're a little kid, and your dad never says thank you or acknowledges it, you're never going to wash the car without him asking you or telling you to. Your dog, same sort of thing. So, nice. Every time they do the things we want, we're petting them and recognizing, saying that marker word and then petting them. They're going to have more of an incentive to do those things as opposed to things we don't want them to do. We also talked about creative forms of exercise. The dogs already play fetch, which is great. Sniffing on walks is great. Don't be afraid to get in your car and drive to another place there that your neighborhood is not so crazy as your neighborhood. And so they can have that. Let them sniff as much as they possibly can. Instead of going for a circuit, just go, I'm going to go walk in this direction. I have 20 minutes to walk. I'm going to walk this direction for 10 minutes. When my buzzer goes off, I turn around and I walk back on the other side of the street. Nice. If you walk a circuit, then you are committed. And then we have to walk a certain amount of distance. Also for Doodles, he only wants to walk a certain amount. So find out what that amount is and just do half of that away and half of the way back. So he's not saying, I don't want to do anymore. Nice. You guys are sitting so nice for pictures now. Why weren't you doing this when I was shooting you pictures, the stills before? Huh? Yeah. Okay, we also, other forms of exercise would be play tug of war. These dogs are not really into it, but some dogs can learn to do that. And for other dogs, there's nothing wrong with tug of war. It does not dominance or teach your dog to challenge you. It's a bunch of malarkey. Also, we went over a mental stimulation like cookie in the corner. I have a video for that one. So for cookie in the corner, when you throw that treat, you're gonna mark when they get it, and then when they come back to you, that's when we want to assign each dog flee, run away, hide, whatever the words are. So each dog has its own unique word. Nice. And so I first throw one treat, and I'm saying the marker word when the dog looks at the treat. Remember, that is very, very rare. Usually say the marker word when they do the action, not when they get the treat. But in this case, getting the treat is the action. Eventually, just hide 5 treats in here and come in here and just point in that direction, say find it, and the dog goes and looks around using its nose, burns a lot of energy. Lick mats are also a great way to burn energy, and I would like to have a lick mat out. I'd really probably do it for all 4 dogs because it'll keep the dogs occupied. If the dogs are practiced when guests come over, I just sit down and lick this peanut butter. That is the behavior they're practicing. And you can put those peanut butter pads the lick mats far away from each other so they're not hassling each other. You can also do it with chewing items, but then we already saw during that they were trying to steal each other's stuff. Lick mats, especially to get the ones with suction cups that can't lick off the ground. Training is mental stimulation. Keep it 1 to 2 minute training sessions. Cookie in the corner, I'd like you to Google scent games, S-C-E-N-T, and find 2 or 3 scent games that you can practice with your dogs. Those are great ways to get your dogs to get energy and exercise without you having to go outside. You do it while you're on a conference call and all the rest of that fun stuff. Nice.
Nice.
Good job. Also be careful of inflection. That one was great, but we have a tendency when we're first teaching our dogs to have over inflection because we're excited, and then later on, at first we're like, nice, and later on like, nice. To a dog, those are different words. So be mindful of your inflection. There's no right or wrong way to say it. Just say it the way that you're going to say it consistently. Let me see. So that's mental stimulation. And then I guess the last thing we talked about, the importance of rules and using Premax. So try to incorporate rules, Premax for you guys, because you have multiple baby gates and barriers. Sit. If the dog doesn't sit, I walk away, I sit down. I prefer not to stand. Standing is temporary for dogs, sitting is more permanent. And so I sit down and wait 1 minute. I'm only going to ask once, and I go back to the door and say, sit again. 1, 2. You don't sit by 2. I go walk away, and this time I sit down for 2 minutes, then for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. I keep double the length of time of my delay. But as soon as I say sit and that butt hits the floor, man, that door wide opens up. I'd probably practice that one first before you practice the going through the door and sitting down one at a time, because that kind of sets you up for that next exercise. But being calm is when they're going to be more likely to perform better. When they're overexcited is when fights and things like that are going to break out. Also because Kole likes to correct Olive when they're excited. So when you have guests come over, you might want to consider picking up Kole. I would say pick up Olive, but he's older, and so that prevents him from correcting her, and it gives her a chance to kind of practice these other things. And there's nothing wrong with one of you have a guest come over, one of you is the treat maven, and you're just kind of following Olive around. I mean, you saw when I was walking around and she knew I had treats. Now you could kind of do that, kind of be like an escort for your guests. That you're walking around every time she kind of gets still with that body language you talked about. You see her mouth closed, throw a treat behind her. She runs away and goes and gets it, or use that other call that we talked about from the cookie in the corner exercise. Now, there's probably other things that we went over that you've forgotten. Nice. I would pet in this case, but she doesn't want me to pet her. And eventually that will not be the case. So when you have guests come over, tell your guests, look, if she comes over and sniff you, that's actually a big thing. Eventually, if you're passive and quiet and calm, eventually she'll get more and more comfortable. And then you could also do that hand targeting. You could have them doing that, but I wouldn't have anybody doing the elevator game or whatever you want to call it till you can do it. And there's nothing. And the other thing is, don't ever be afraid of having you do the exercise first to set you up for success. Celebrate.
Nice.
Good job. And so try to do that celebrating thing, because that probably more than anything else, if you get habit rewarding the desired behaviors, your dog's going to start offering those more and more frequently. All right, Doodles. Oh, the pause interrupter. So what if you want to use the or beep, 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 or puppy, puppy, puppy? Make sure you say it in 3 words. You like puppy, 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 huh? So just say puppy, 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 treat, walk to the next room, puppy, 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 treat. And so after a while, you can use that. Remember, if the dog now is doing something undesirable, non-good, let's say the dogs are chewing on the furniture, I say, puppy, 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 they look at me, I go, touch, they run over and touch my hand, then I give them the Omega Tricky Trainer treat ball, or a lick mat, or a bully stick, or I take them for a short walk, or do some training, or something, and deplete that energy. Remember, all exercise, all energy is actually rewarded, or All attention is validated. Yeah, yeah. I will take. If you want to seal that bag and take it over, just toss it over. So, yep. All right. Well, this is Doodles. This is Kole. This is the Lightning, who I was calling flashing or sparkles. And this is the Olive Girl. And this is their roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog or dogs. Only sometimes you mean it.